Hi guys, and welcome back to Manch Talk. I'm Carla Gericke, and today in the studio I have technically my boss, but my friend and my colleague from Ledgeview Commercial, Matt Ping. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Sure. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about all things real estate and Bitcoin. And, New Hampshire actually is like on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff going on. And in fact, when I was doing my show prep for today, I kind of kicked it into Grok and I was like, tell me like what the Bitcoin landscape in New Hampshire looks like. And I was pretty impressed. So before we sort of do the huge deep dive, how about you tell folks back home a little bit about Ledgeview, a little bit about your background, actually, like who are you and what are you up to, Matt Ping?
Well, thanks again for having me on. I'm the principal broker of Ledgeview Commercial and Porcupine Real Estate. We're a full-service real estate brokerage that covers all of New Hampshire. Porcupine Real Estate handles mainly real estate sales. We do buy, sell, and then Ledgeview Commercial handles all of our property management in Manchester and Concord mostly.
Nice, and your office is on the west side of Manchester?
Yeah, we're in West Manchester, but again, we work all over the state.
Yeah, I know because I do a lot of driving, and I'm really glad I got my new car this year, which for whatever reason, I don't know, these new cars just beep for too many reasons. Sometimes I'm like, what? Why is it beeping now? And then sometimes I'm like, oh, because my car is not in park and I'm driving to get out. So, of course, we do work all over the state. And then for your property management services, like what does that look like? Like, is that nose to tail, as they say?
Yeah, we do full service property management as well, where we handle tenant relations, we collect the rent, we find a tenant. We don't own any of the properties. We work for other individuals who own the buildings, and then we handle it all for them. And then they get a nice report at the end of the month, and they're happy.
Happy clients are always the best.
Always appreciated, yes.
All right, so let's do this deep dive. And I think just for people back home, our audience is sort of all over the place, but we definitely have some elderly people who watch at least on Manchester Public Access television. Mm-hmm. And maybe they've been hearing the word Bitcoin and they're like, what is this thing? Can you explain just kind of in a nutshell?
I guess in its simplest form, Bitcoin is a way to transfer value over the internet instantly almost. So similar to how you would send a wire transaction from a bank to a bank, well, Bitcoin is from person to person and a lot faster and a lot cheaper.
And it's been around now for a while. I mean, the value has gone up. New Hampshire, maybe we'll do like a little back in the olden days for a second. I mean, New Hampshire and a lot of us in our community were pretty early adopters, right? So what were the reasons or what are the things that appeal to people about Bitcoin? I mean, I know for me it was sort of that it wasn't fiat money.
Yeah, it's not dollars, right? It's a lot different. It's not regulated by a government. So people like the idea of transacting on their own when they want. They don't have to ask permission. They can buy things, trade with people freely. That's what attracted a lot of people originally. It's changed since then, right? Now it has a lot more value. It's worth, I think, $112,000 today.
Whatever it was today, because also for people who are paying attention. Which, is a little bit of a downside that one should talk about, right? I mean, the line is still, of course, doing that, but it is a fairly volatile.
Just like real estate can be volatile, right? If you remember in 2008, we had a huge housing crash, right? Prices dropped significantly. A lot of people lost their homes. It was unfortunate. But there is volatility when, people get involved in the markets and start trading and make bad decisions. So it's good to do your research and be comfortable with what you're getting into.
Okay, so for people who are sort of looking at the intersection of Bitcoin specific, I'm just going to use Bitcoin today. I mean, there are different cryptos and whatever, but we're more interested in Bitcoin. I mean, that is sort of where the laws are kind of being written around right now, certainly in New Hampshire, actually. And maybe we could start there, or I could just cover a little bit of this, right? and I've mentioned this before on the show, as people know, so New Hampshire is the first state-level Bitcoin reserve
Yep.
that has
State reserve.
been introduced. That was this year, and it's been signed by Kelly, and that basically says that the state can hold up to, I think it's 5%, right?
Yeah, it allows the state treasurer to allocate funds into Bitcoin and hold a certain percentage. It doesn't mandate that they hold Bitcoin, but it gives them the option to research and to buy it, whether it's in an ETF, so similar to buying the S&P 500, or if the state actually wants to buy and hold Bitcoin.
So, and actually that was neat in that Bitcoin reserve as well, as it does actually have sort of a sound money for people out there who might still have gold and silver, both of which are also up, right?
Yes.
And the reason we are, as libertarians, I will say that's this we, are interested in these things is because, you know, when it feels to folks, and I hear this a lot from Gen Z especially, right? It feels like people are getting poorer. They feel like they're being priced out of the market. We know that the New Hampshire real estate market is hot, hot, hot.
Yes, it is.
Right? And so what appeals to many of us about these alternatives to the dollar is that we believe it'll solve some of the problems, including the sort of inflationary pressure we're seeing. So in New Hampshire, we have a housing shortage, so that makes things problematic. But then also we have inflation. So two of these things, Bitcoin can't really solve the housing crisis yet.
No, but it can help, yes.
So have you actually ever done walk us through a Bitcoin house purchase?
If anyone has been through a real estate purchase before, it's done very similarly, right? The buyer has Bitcoin, they go out, they find the house that they want to buy. We get under contract, an agreement for a price and a date to buy it. And then the buyer and seller meet with the title company at closing, and that's when they actually transfer funds. So the buyer has Bitcoin, and they will send it to the seller with the title company recording everything, and then the deed is issued.
The deed is done,
and
as
it's
they
done,
say.
right? Exactly.
And that's straight where you basically are paying with Bitcoin.
Correct. You are paying with Bitcoin. You are not transferring it to dollars and then sending it to the title company. So it does happen a lot faster. We've done one of these transactions. The first one in New Hampshire actually was 2018.
Oh wow, way back.
Yes, exactly. But it wasn't the first in the country. I believe the first in the country was in Florida.
But I think it was the
But it could have been second, right?
I
But
feel
definitely
like it
first
was,
in New Hampshire.
So it's funny because you know how Eminem, the rapper, will be like, you only get one shot, right? So to be first. But I was like, oh, my Bitcoin stories are always like, I was the second to do something, including, by the way, the second person to use the Lamassu ATM, which was debuted at Liberty Forum many, many, many moons ago,
right,
probably
developed here
2012.
in Manchester, right, in 2012, and then it became mainstream.
And so, you know, New Hampshire has always been on the cusp a little bit with the crypto and specifically Bitcoin stuff because of the Free State Project, candidly, because there's a community here that values things that move away from state control and move towards more freedom, more individual freedom, but also maybe solves problems like wars, right? Actually, Bitcoin is kind of anti-war.
Yeah, it can be. Right?
And, well, at least right now it is. I'm sure someone will figure out how to make it harder over time. So we also have strong legislative support. Do you know of any Bitcoin stuff that will be coming up?
I don't know of any current bills on the docket, but we do have a lot of legislators that are Bitcoin friendly. They're open to the new technology, which is helpful, and they're asking a lot of questions, right? Which is very important. We want an informed legislator.
Right, and it is just an issue that's going to be coming up more and more, and so it's kind of actually nice to see these people who've been elected. I'm thinking specifically of Keith Ammon out of New Boston. You know, he's been probably 10 10 years now. I mean, if I'm starting to cast my mind back. And he's very interested in both technology, Bitcoin, and nuclear.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the criticisms I hear sometimes, and in fact, you know, people will say mining the Bitcoin takes too much energy and that kind of stuff. So, so having nuclear involved could be pretty interesting, right?
It could, yeah. It could also help us here locally if we had more nuclear. But the main thing about the Bitcoin mining, it is intensive, but so is starting up power production at a traditional power plant, right? It takes a lot more money and energy to start up to make more power, right, rather than keeping a constant level. So
right, that's why like in South Africa where we have the rolling blackouts, because it's literally that they can't maintain it, and then getting back on grid is...
Exactly. So Bitcoin mining can actually stabilize the electric grid and keep it stable. And then if we have high demand from residential or commercial usage, the Bitcoin miners can turn off, so that way the demand, again, stays stable.
Oh,
so there are benefits to it.
So, you know, it's one of those technologies, and it's just one of those situations where obviously the technology is ahead of the regulatory curve, right?
It is, yes.
And so there's a bit of catch up that happens. People sometimes get caught in those, you know, the snare in between the regulation and all of that. But it does seem like the market is now maturing. Yep. So do you think we're going to start to see more real estate Bitcoin sort of transactions? Like if you cast your mind out and you're like, hey, 5 years from now, Carla, I would love it if our business looked this way, right? Like talk about the people it might appeal to, like what's the vision?
Well, Bitcoin has been around since 2009, so there's been a lot of people who've had the opportunity to get in early. And I believe there's a lot that have been holding on to it long term. So they bought it, say, in 2011. They're thinking about buying a house this year. They may wait another year or two, but they are thinking about it, right? And more people, as time goes on, more and more people have been buying Bitcoin over the past few years. And we are going to see more real estate deals transacted in Bitcoin and not converted to US dollars.
Okay, and as the leading experts really in New Hampshire, I would say, on Bitcoin and real estate, right? So there was that original transaction in 2018, but there have been some after that. And with volatility also comes this flux in products, right? It's still an issue of figuring out which products are going to work. So we do these direct transactions, which is the ideal one, but there are also scenarios where you might get a middleman involved. What does that one look like?
So sometimes so when you're buying a home, typically you're going to put down an escrow deposit. That escrow deposit goes to a title company or an attorney to be held onto until we go to closing that final day. So you could use Bitcoin with a third party in escrow, essentially, right, as your escrow deposit. So that way that seller is more comfortable knowing that some is put away just in case, you know, the buyer backs out of the contract. So that is a little riskier, right? Because you have to have somebody who understands the technology, who's considered an independent, unbiased third party. You know, that's why we use title companies and attorneys. So we do actually have a title company in New Hampshire that has done this for us before.
Right.
And they're willing to do it again. They're tech savvy. They're willing to learn new things, and it's been wonderful working with them. And
you know, actually, to that point, I think that is one of our competitive advantages as well. Is like we're a dynamic team that's actually willing to learn new things. And sadly, even me, the elder, you know, there are all these tools that are coming out and all these products, right? And so there's also a important role as sort of these, you know, a leading voice in this area of vetting, right? Because there is, you know, it is a volatile market, and you know, there are better and worse products and better and worse players, so to speak, right? So for us, I think that is really a great core thing about the your business, our
Right.
business, your business,
Our business, we
you
both
know,
work in it.
is this thing of knowing the landscape so well. Like you've been in this market since, basically its inception.
Yeah.
And so watching it evolve and learning and sort of staying ahead of that curve is part of our value proposition, I think.
Yes, Porcupine Real Estate, myself, right, we've done a lot of research on different softwares, on different ways to help educate our partners, like our title companies and our insurance companies, so they know what's going on.
And of course, as the value goes up, more of these even traditional companies are going to start to say, hey, this is a space we should be in because,
Yes.
Other people are.
Yeah, Fidelity Investments, one of the larger employers in New Hampshire, is a custodian of Bitcoin, and they offer an ETF as well. So they actually physically hold Bitcoin for their customers.
Very cool. So I forget if it was last year or the year before, probably the year before, with DAOs. Can you tell folks back home what a DAO is and where that might fit into all of this? So is it decentralized?
So a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization.
Yes.
So a DAO is essentially an LLC that is automated and on the new technology called blockchain, right? So it makes decisions based on how it was programmed, and it doesn't take anybody to click the button to make something happen. It does it automatically. New Hampshire actually did pass a law where DAOs are a legal organization similar to an LLC.
Are a legal, not illegal.
Correct.
A
legal entity
Yes.
like an LLC. So you can create a business, call it a DAO, as long as it meets the certain criteria that the state has set forth.
Okay.
When it comes to real estate, what you can do is buy real estate within the entity of the DAO, and anybody who owns a portion of that DAO is an owner, which is very similar to an LLC. It's written into a contract. It's described what you own, how many shares, what happens if you sell the property or somebody wants to sell their share. But it's a lot quicker.
Because
it's a lot faster
also
to
the
transact.
DAO, and correct me if I'm wrong, which might be the case, but the DAO, so it's like an LLC, you get the shares, but where the efficiencies come in is because it has a smart contract that's running on the blockchain.
Correct.
So things can get executed in a way that is much more efficient than
Right.
being like, oh, now we have to get all the shareholders together and agree what we're
Right.
doing now. There's a pre-contract
Right.
on the blockchain, and so it makes it much more efficient that way. And New Hampshire, thanks to Free Staters, that was another bill that
Yeah.
I think Wyoming beat us, but Wyoming actually made it an LLC. And in New Hampshire, if I understand correctly, it's an actual new legal entity that is
Correct.
standalone and not an LLC.
Correct. DAOs being a little more complicated, I don't think they're going to take off very quickly, but we are setting that precedence in the state to attract other businesses to come here and start businesses. So that's the ideal.
Okay, so just shifting, not really shifting gears, but trying to sort of isolate who we think is in the market for these kinds of transactions. So the current New Hampshire real estate market, let's talk about that just a little bit, right? It's still a seller's market.
It is, yeah.
But do you think that's starting to...
It's starting to wobble a little bit. We are starting to see a little bit more inventory come onto the market, and what is coming on is staying on longer, so it's not being sold as quickly. And we are starting to see seeing price drops too.
Yes,
right?
I did notice that,
Yes.
yes. Here and there, and sometimes where it's just tasty enough, right?
Right, exactly.
So-
I mean, what's going to benefit us though is when the interest rates go down, if they go down here in September, right? The mortgage rates may drop, right? That's going to incentivize more buyers to come in. So we may not see prices drop any further.
I mean, I don't know what the magic sauce is of we print more money, but the exchange goes down, but okay, the interest rate goes down. But I know a lot of people are actually waiting for that. So from
They
an
have been,
economic
yeah.
perspective, that would be good because maybe we would see this influx to New Hampshire. Now it's sort of the end of summer. So most of the people who are going to buy for schools, that's probably in the works or, being closed in the next month or so. But of course, if you hold Bitcoin and it goes up a little more, you could buy it any time of the year.
You want. Yes, exactly.
And I don't know what I was looking at this morning, but I saw a really beautiful $8 million property. So, we'll be happy to sell someone one of those for Bitcoin. And I do like the direct model the most, right?
It's the easiest. It's the best for all parties involved. It's less chaotic.
Right. And then maybe for, more of the larger land investors out there, one of the things you and I talk about, and in fact, Dominic and I were talking about it when we did the show, is there are these large swaths of land that are still available in New Hampshire that are, in my esteemed opinion, still very reasonably priced. If you think you're getting in early on Switzerland, like if you're like, wait, there's this little bastion in the Northeast that is the oasis surrounded by socialism that is trying to show people, hey, these ideas work, right? Let's let the market work. And so I know you gave me a list of things we were supposed to talk about. Have we hit any of it yet?
Yeah, we have. We've been going through it.
Okay. So in the current real estate market, do you think people should be thinking about Bitcoin as only on the luxury side, or like there's maybe someone out there who's like, oh, I could buy a parcel of land and really do nothing with it while I figure things out?
I mean, I think Bitcoin could be for anyone, and I'm a believer of diversifying investments. So, don't hold just gold, don't buy just real estate, don't buy just Bitcoin, right? Diversify a little bit, and if one of those goes up, make a decision, if it's best for you and your family, to sell Bitcoin and then buy a house, I would encourage it, right? I think it's a good thing.
Right.
Talk with your financial advisors, your accountants, your attorneys, all of that for disclosures and make sure you're doing the right thing.
Good disclaimer there. But actually, I think that's valuable to talk about. So at PorcFest, right, we did one of the little talks we did for Porcupine Real Estate was, okay, imagine Bitcoin's $1 million. What would you do with it, right? And there's this human nature thing, right, of the whole, we call them hodlers, right? Hodlers. I've always said it wrong then. I thought you were holding it. Okay, you're hodling it.
Hodling.
So that means for folks back home, that's when people don't want to sell because they think there's it's just going to go up forever.
It's going to keep going up forever.
Right,
yes.
Which, my mother always used to say, what goes up must come down.
And while Bitcoin may go up infinitely, our lives are not infinite.
Right, and so that is the point I wanted to get to. So we can't state it more succinctly than that. But there is this notion of it's a trade-off. So maybe you're like, having lost millions of dollars over my life, walking away from vested options in Silicon Valley at the wrong moment 3 times.
Oh, good. Wow.
I know of which I speak. And the point is, those are the trade-offs. You don't live forever. And so there is something to be said for, maybe you're going to cash out when it's at 200. Let's say, I'm just making up numbers, right? Because you want to buy this $8 million house. Or, you're like, oh, I'm going to sell it for $8 million one day. But it's like, but then your life has gone by. And what we really should emphasize about New Hampshire is the quality of living. So what do you love about living here?
I love everything about living here. It's a wonderful state. I love having all 4 seasons, especially living in Manchester. I love being an hour from pretty much everything, the mountains, the ocean, Boston on a good traffic day, right? But it's
I went down there in 45 minutes yesterday. I couldn't believe it. The quality of living, and then yes, it's an hour to all these other things, but because I drive by your house when I go hike with my dog, we're also 3 minutes away from these incredible trails that are just right in our backyards. So really, for folks who are watching this and wondering, Don't wait to move to New Hampshire. It's probably, sorry to say, still, I believe, only going to get more expensive.
I believe
because
so as well.
supply and demand and the value proposition of what we're building here, which is a place that is a bastion and a beacon of liberty. And we know, historically speaking, people who are free to make their own decisions leads to more peace and prosperity.
It does.
All
Absolutely.
right. Any last thoughts here before I wrap up by telling people about FSB DAC?
No, I again appreciate the invite, and it's been wonderful.
How can people reach you?
PorcupineRealEstate.com or LedgeviewCommercial.com, and you can view our available houses, our available apartments, and reach out to us by email on that site.
And your direct email, or you want them to go through that?
Go through the site, yeah,
Okay.
because we have a whole team of individuals that may be able to help you and answer any questions you may
Oh,
have.
look at him. He's a boss. Well, everyone can reach me at Carla at PorcupineRealEstate.com. But before we go off today, I want to remind everyone that coming up on October 12th, we will have the FSB DAC conference, now in its 7th year.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe that? So this year, we were there together last year.
Right.
It was at the Fenton's Farm, beautiful farm out in Durham. But this year, it's going to be at the Wentworth by the Sea.
Oh, nice.
So it's at a hotel this year. So the idea with that is to just make it easier if people are coming, maybe, maybe, just maybe, the dude's into Bitcoin and the wife and the kids just want to go apple picking. We can make that happen for you. So if you want more information, and that stands for Free State Blockchain or Free State Bitcoin, we haven't decided for this year, Digital Asset Conference. You can find more information at blockchainnh.com. That's going to be taking place October 12th. It is an intimate, casual, really insightful, sort of insider crypto. There are some cool people who always show up. One surprise.
It is an educational event. There's lots of different people speaking, some from New Hampshire, some come from out of state to talk about their different projects and help educate everyone about the technology.
Exactly, and in fact, we will be there helping to, well, one of us will be educating, one of us will be entertaining, but we will be there as well. Again, October 12th, tickets are available. It's $55. If you want a discount code, you can email me at carla@porcupinerealestate.com, and I have 100% discount codes. So email me. Look at me generating leads.
There we go.
All right, that's all we have time for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week.